We kind of agree on a concept and we'll just do that in the room, like kind of deciding, we'll kind of brainstorm ideas and pitch them off of each other until we settle on an idea. And then we'll break that story. We'll do that in a couple of different ways. Sometimes we'll start with just a log line sentence that's just kind of like a mission statement for what we think the film will be. And it gets very technical and not sexy. It's like, the antagonist, the protagonist, the setting, and all that. And then we break it down into acts and do cards for each act. And then we break it down into a treatment. And then,
I would just say that first part is very much what he's asking is the in the room. Like,
yeah.
it's very much in the room every day. It's like a writer's room of two. And it's classic note cards on the wall, which is what every screenwriter does.
Yeah.
And that's in the room every single day. And then we'll get, once it's got as far as we can with the note cards, then we'll write like a really detailed treatment. And from that point forward, we're literally on other sides of the house in our different offices. Like, we definitely do not sit over her shoulder while she types. Like, there's no way in hell we could
kill
do
each
that.
other.
Yeah.
You know what I love about people? Their hearts. And talking about movies. Welcome to the Heartbeat Film Podcast. This podcast is all about getting to know the hearts of the people who make the art we love. I'm Jan.
I'm Hayram. And I'm Chris. Thanks to everybody who's joining us. Let's start the show.
Love is in the air, everybody, and it feels so good. Welcome to our Valentine's Day episode, airing a bit early before the holiday weekend. I love a good themed episode. Christmas in Cape Side, Halloween in Sunnydale, and Jesse singing I'm So Excited in a drug awareness episode of Saved by the Bell. Today, we welcome our friends, married writers and directors, Lane and Ruckus Skye. We chat about love, the power of collaboration, and their new movie out on Netflix today, The Devil to Pay. We're also going to be talking about our favorite romantic movies. So, with that being said, how are you guys?
Boom, Jan crushed.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Man,
like, end the episode. Wrap.
Stop it.
That's it. Jan has the podcast on point. Wow. I mean, I thought we stepped up the last episode with this one.
Well done.
That was really good. You had like the full narrator. Like, will you read an audiobook for us?
Shut
That's
up.
fantastic.
Thanks.
I'm being serious. That was on point.
This is exciting.
Man, this is really exciting. All of a sudden, I realized I'm the person who takes this the least serious, and I need to step up my game. Chris is looking good. He's got the LED. He looks like the most sophisticated gamer who's reading like anime novel or something.
Exactly.
He looks great.
No,
Man,
but
I'm
in
just
the
over here
beginning,
like I got a lamp.
No, but in the beginning, Hayram, first of all, Hayram, that's not true. Hayram took it the most serious and had like these pages and pages of outlines, okay?
Yep.
And then Hayram set up my podcast studio with this light, this mic, everything that you see and you don't see Hayram set up because, so honestly, that's not the truth, Hayram.
Listen, all things change.
I'm just
All
saying,
things come around.
performance-wise, though, you're bringing it. Anyway, okay, so let's get back to. I mean, I'm sorry.
Let's jump in.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
So,
I'm excited
guys,
about talking about romantic films because I think my taste is a little offbeat, but I love romantic films. Probably not the same ones that you love, Jan. Guaranteed not the same ones that you love, I would say. But
okay.
I'm excited about this topic. So
Okay.
I would love to start with harems because I have no idea what to expect actually from what one of your favorite romantic films would be.
Ooh. Okay. So, for me, yeah, and it's so stereotypical, but I think that my perspective on why I enjoy it is a bit different. Okay, so for me, and I'm going to break it in subcontext because I got a first movie that I think is the most romantic for me, a second movie, and then I also have some dialogue that I just love, eat up. Okay, so the first movie is going to be The Notebook.
Ugh.
And the reason
Ryan
I know. Hold on. I know. The reason The Notebook is so beautiful is because it's similar to, the Benjamin Button, right? Where it's like, it shows his full life story. And the consistent factor that I find to be like, obviously there's the romantic side, and Rachel McAdams is beautiful, and there's the intrigue and the danger, but what I love about it most is the consistency in his character of pursuing her mind in both the youthful phase and then even when they're older and she's looping her life shorter. He doesn't stop. And even when the family comes to visit and they're like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, and you know what I mean? Like, you can come be with us. You'll be okay. She'll be okay. He's like, no, she's always been above all of you. I'm still pursuing her heart. You know what I mean? And so the masculine narrative under all of that is one of consistency, being true to your word and true to your promises, in the same way that, like, we talked about recently, you know, back last year, we talked about It's a Wonderful Life. And it's the same parallel there. He's like, they see this old garbage house and he's like, I'm going to get that. Like, she's like, I want to live in that house someday. You know what I mean? And he ends up getting it and they live in it and they make it a home. Same thing with him. He goes and cultivates that promise regardless of her family's actions, regardless of what she chooses to do. And he stays consistent of what he set out to build for their life. And then she can step back into it. And then it's the same parallel in their old age where it's just like, he's there consistently pursuing her. So I just think that the masculine undertone of consistency and persistence of romantic pursuit is beautiful in that movie. And it's one that I don't see in many romantic films, because a lot of them, let's be honest, are about the spark, the beginning of love, and they don't play out the rest of the story. It's not the years and years of raising a family and all that stuff, but to see the bookends is always a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? To see what it looks like on both. And I think that's what the essence of romance is, kind of like, you know, like if you think like that one Ed Sheeran song where it's like, you know, when we're old and, you know, whatever, when my fingers can't play like they used to, all that stuff, that idea of taking it to the nth degree. And it's more than just physical attraction. It's more than just emotional salience. It's like knowing each other and allowing each other to hold your mind and your goals and your age and your life, you know? So that's the first one, first movie. Second movie that's special to me, and it's weird because it hit me in a unique place, and so that's what I'm bringing out of the podcast, because I don't know that it's like the most romantic movie, but Me Before You. And what's unique about that movie is when it came out with Emilia Clarke and all that stuff, and despite that it has kind of a difficult to wrestle with ending, I had just gotten out of the hospital and was still quite paralyzed, and I was with my girlfriend Abby, and we went to the theater to see it, and to be in this destructive position of now having gone through the transformation of life and like not knowing how to wrestle with being paralyzed, right? Not knowing how that was going to affect, because I think for men, what's difficult as they develop is they translate their attractiveness toward women back to themselves and perceive it as the way women see them attractively, right? And what being in a relationship with Abby through all of that turmoil and like losing my physique, you know, I went from 220 pounds down to 178 within 2 months, right? And being feeble and weak, and then like basically coming out of the hospital, being able to walk, but being like a grandma pretty much. You know what I mean? I had to be careful around curbs. It was a bit unreal. And so we went and saw this movie, and watching the way it unfolded such a similar narrative to my life, but also the narrative that I had yet to see, right? Which is the way that women can love a man regardless of certain physical attributes of his strength and presence. You know what I mean? And kind of learning that, because Abby, throughout our whole, and still to this day, we love each other very much. Throughout our whole incident of recovery there, she just didn't stop loving me. And it was always so perplexing, because it was like, I felt revulsive. You know what I mean? I felt like incompetent and dehumanized. You know what I mean? And I'm like, here I am, you know what I mean, going through all of these medical procedures, can't do anything for myself, have to have help with everything. And then it's like the end of this ridiculous day where I've just failed at possibly everything I can do in recovery. You know what I mean? And she helps me change into, my bedtime clothes, whatever. I got a neck brace with a trach that's wheezing, and she'll be like, all right, well, I love you, and kiss me goodnight. You know what I mean? And just to realize that there's nothing I can do to earn that love. You know what I mean? So that movie is the second one that stands out in my mind, where it taught me something in a moment in my life where it couldn't have been more perfectly paralleled. and it shook me to my core of what love actually is, and what sex actually is, and what affirmation and presence and doing life actually is. And then, and this is gonna come way out of left field, because I was talking about my favorite dialogue of romance, and this is the least romantic thing, but I think some men will resonate with it. Well, I probably gotta get a lead in. My brother and I often talk about sharks and dolphins, and this is gonna sound so stupid right out the gate. Sharks and dolphins, and I've been obsessed with sharks for some time. So dolphins are extremely intelligent, and they have organs that are sound emitting for sonar, right? And they can tell the density between a ping pong ball and a golf ball just by sound and echo and what they have. They have a whole organ system for making sound and tracking sounds and navigating life through sound, right? Sharks, relatively similar animals, make no sound. They have no sound emitting organs, and they hunt in silence, right? And I think there's something about the masculine journey that is done in silence, right? It's singularly focused, and it's at times aggressive, and it doesn't attack anything, right? But it is a hunter, and men need to be what's psychology terms shadow integration. They need to be familiar with their dark side, so if they need it, it's there, right? And so my brother and I have discussions about, is this a shark side thing, is this a dolphin side thing? You know what I mean? Is this where you're polite, you're cheery, you're noisy, or should you do this in silence and go set out to make man's work? And so this is why I love this line so much. And you guys know, recently I've been going back through House of Cards. Such a good show. And the first episode, and maybe the second or third scene, they've just been played, right? Things moved, the politics moved, and he's been shuffled from his position, and he doesn't know what to do. Everything that him and his wife have been planning for politically. And they are not an example of love, but I love this scene. So he comes home, opens the window, he's smoking a cigarette, and they're having this discussion about how this all fell through, right? And she's like, okay, well, I know you figure it out, whatever. And she goes upstairs, goes to bed. Then, it's like they show her waking up. She goes downstairs. She goes right past him, makes 2 cups of coffee, comes back, and it's probably like 1 or 3 a.m., we can't tell. And he starts telling her how he's got it figured out, how he's gonna, and he's still smoking cigarettes, and he's gonna like change the plan, and he's gonna adjust this, and he's gonna do this, and this is what he plans to do. And she gives him some affirmation, and hands the coffee, and says, "I know that you know what to do," etc. And then and he's like, "I'm gonna go get showered and go to work," right? And he says, "I'm sorry that I whatever," and we had to readjust, right? And she says to him, No one apologizes to me, not even my husband." Or no. My husband apologizes to no one, not even me. And then something, go get ready and do what you need to do, right? And then he goes to the top of the stairs, or the beginning of the stairs, looks at the camera. You know how he's always breaking the fourth wall. And he says, I love that woman. I love that woman more than a shark loves blood. And like, to me, like that, like, because it paralleled her strength, where she was supporting what he needed to go do and saying, don't even apologize to me. I know you're going to do what's right. You know what I mean? And then like he analyzed it to knowing that like he's the shark in this analogy, right? And that he's more obsessed with her than the primary, like primal thing that motivates a shark. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really cool line.
Nice.
Oh, that's really
Thoughts,
good.
reviews?
That's yeah, great. It's great. Well, number one, I have 2 thoughts. Chris, maybe we can get to yours, or we're going to get into another discussion after our interview with Lane and Ruckus. They're coming on in like just a few minutes. But I thought all of that was great. And then I had another thought just about, if you want to hear more of Hiram Leon's musings,
Hiram's long-winded musings.
On our next episode, we get to dig into Hiram's life and all of his thoughts and things. So it's like a precursor. Really, Hiram gave us
the theme of our podcast. Hiram, what one movie do you like? Well, here's 5. Everyone listen up.
Really quickly, Chris, do you have any thoughts before I introduce Lane and Ruckus and we get started on talking to them?
Oh yeah, I mean I definitely know what my favorite film is that falls into the kind of romantic theme. But there's one that's recent, actually, even more recent, that I think kind of represents also like my kind of more offbeat taste, which is Bones and All, which is the Luca Guadagnino film that just came out not too long ago with Timothée Chalamet, who he's worked with before in the film Call Me by Your Name. Luca also directed Io sono l'amore, I Am Love, which is another one of my favorite, most romantic films. It's incredible. So he's clearly, one of my go-tos if I want to see something that I think is romantic in a kind of offbeat way. But my favorite of all time is definitely Punch Drunk Love by P.T. Anderson, the one with Adam Sandler and Emily Watson. It's like there's something magic about that film that is, again, not like a really kind of traditional mainstream romance story, but it also kind of is like hits all those kind of beats, but from a strange angle. Just in terms of how Adam plays that character, he's obviously somebody who's got all this pent up anger and aggression, and really tamps it down and suppresses it. And then this woman comes into his life who just opens up his entire world, his entire perspective, his third eye, if you will, and all of this craziness ensues. And in the P.T. Anderson way, it just flips everything on its head, and it just like from the music to the cinematography, it's just magic from top to bottom. And even the way that the film starts with this really crazy scene where this truck, this car flips over on the street, and then the truck pulls up, or van or something pulls up outside of Adam Sandler's character's office building, drops off this bizarre kind of musical instrument, and he like sneaks it inside, and then you're just off to the races. There's like a complete non sequitur of an opener, and then he just has this really kind of bizarre and unique way of telling what would otherwise be a really traditional story, and that really set me on a path at a relatively early age to understand that there's all kinds of different ways to tell the same story, and he just did it expertly. And my love of P.T. Anderson really kind of started at that point, because I think I'd seen Boogie Nights already, which is another interesting kind of romance kind of story, but Punch Drunk Love just caught me like an uppercut, man. I just wasn't prepared for how incredible and bizarre films can be in that way, without having to explain every little thing and make it nice and tidy and neat. But it's also a perfect example of like a really tight 90-minute film that just does all the things that it needs to do without being long-winded, but also just pulling the heartstrings, but not the one that you think. And I really, really dug that. So Punch Drunk Love is at the top of my list forever.
That sounds amazing. You know how I try to be really good with transitions?
Here we go.
And you
We're
are.
in it. We're in one. We're currently in one. I can feel it
We're in one right. This is it. This is how we
Yeah,
do them.
This is it.
We announce them, then we talk about them while they're
It's
happening.
weird.
Man,
like-
we're
it's
good
like-
at this.
It's like
Well, I
we're
didn't
walking
just
into a
want
black
to.
hole.
I didn't just want to cut you off. No, I'm
What's it gonna
saying.
be like on the other side?
Okay, so thank you, Chris.
I can't wait.
Thank you, Chris, for your answer. That was really lovely.
Jan just went game show host to try and make
Generic, most generic response ever. Chris, your response was very succinct and wonderful. Now, moving on
Thank
to
you.
next
Now,
topic.
Okay.
guest star. The next
No,
question
really,
is.
I love hearing what you guys have to say. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your hearts as men. I teared up a couple of times and can't wait to talk again after.
Yeah, we got to hear yours. We got to hear
Right.
yours.
Yeah,
if there's
well-
anything worth waiting for, we got to get back to your answer.
Yes, we'll do that at the end. So for right now, though, we are so excited. We have two really good friends of the show, Lane and Ruckus Skye, that we're about to talk to. And so I'm going to read a little bit of their bio. Ruckus and Lane Skye are a husband and wife writing and directing team. They have written a number of features, including Becky, starring Kevin James, Joel McHale, and Lulu Wilson, which opened at #1 at the domestic box office and was an official selection of Tribeca 2020. The Skye's feature writing directing debut, the Appalachian thriller The Devil to Pay, starring Danielle Deadweiler, is now streaming on Netflix. So, guys, please welcome our friends to the show, Lane and Ruckus Skye, and I just, let them in. This is perfect.
Here's the big question: could they hear that tremendous intro?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I was like, should I let them in and then, hey guys.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Good to see
Oh my
you.
gosh, look at this setup.
I know that we're friends, but I feel like I'm in the midst of bona fide celebrities.
Haha.
I'm serious.
Joining a fan club.
That's real.
Yes,
Absolutely.
seriously. Especially after watching Devil to Pay, which I can't wait to talk about. Yeah, for sure.
Did you guys didn't hear that tremendous intro Jan just read about you, did you?
We did.
Oh man. Well, you're going to be surprised when you play this episode.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we sent it to you to
They
read,
sent it
so
to
I'm
me,
assuming,
Yeah, we wrote it for her.
I'm assuming we know what it said.
Yeah, they're great writers.
Industry secrets.
Lane and Ruckus. I don't know if you guys have met Chris and Hayram, but this is Chris and Hayram, Lane and
It
Ruckus.
is so good to meet you
No.
guys.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We're your fan club right now.
Yay!
Yay.
Fan club of 3.
We can use more.
Who's the president? That's the real question.
Ooh, the
Jan,
verdict's
there's no
out.
doubt.
Yeah, exactly. I am. Cool. Yeah, so we just really want to chat with you guys about your journey and your story, and thanks for being on the show. And of course, in the after party, we want to talk a lot about A Devil to Pay, which was such a treat and a pleasure to listen to. So
And first of all, though, we were just talking about, this is our Valentine's Day episode, right? So we're talking a little bit about our favorite romantic films. So helping us kind of get into your story, I'm curious what each of your favorite romantic films would be. And then that can kind of help us get into how the two of you met.
That's a good question.
Oh, wow. You got a romantic film. I know you do.
I mean, lots of them. Some of them weird, some of them not weird.
We were not
So
prepared.
weird.
Take
The
both.
weird
This
ones.
question. I really like Dirty Pretty Things. Has a beautiful romance at the core of a thriller. But people probably don't think of that as a romantic movie, but their relationship is very sweet. It's very.
There's
What
this
is
guy-
it?
Yeah.
what is Dirty Pretty Things? I've never heard of that.
It's a British film. It won the Oscar for screenplay the year it came out. I would just it's one of our favorite films. It's about help me out here. What's the word?
It's about organ trafficking and
That's
and
not the word I was
refugees.
Yeah, refugees in Britain, in the UK, and yeah, it's just good. I'm not selling it very well, but it's a really good movie.
It's really good.
It was a big deal when it came
So
out.
really the romance that you see is the way the characters are written inside this thriller storyline. And that's
Yeah, these two characters are basically falling in love, but they can't. I don't want to spoil it, but
There's reasons, like any good love story, that they can't be together.
yeah, and it's just a beautiful film. It deserved the attention it got, except from Jan. It didn't get any attention from Jan.
It didn't. I was off watching A Walk to Remember for the past 20 years, so
It's been out for a while too. It's not a recent film, but
Yeah.
What about you, Lane?
I'll be snooty and say this short film about love by Kieslowski. It's part of his Decalogue, and it's voyeuristic. Like this little boy falls in love, or a young man falls in love with this woman across the courtyard by watching her through her window, and it's twisted and weird and vulnerable, and I love it.
Valentine's Day.
There was, I can't remember the name of the film. There was a film that you just triggered. It was like I think it was a Korean film where this guy like goes to commit suicide, and he jumps off of a bridge because he's got so much debt and all this stuff, and he ends up just living as a recluse on an island. And this woman like watches him through her telescope like every day. He's just living on this island, and then eventually he gets in trouble, and she goes to save him. And I can't remember what the name of the film is, but that you just reminded me of that. I hadn't seen it in a while. Yeah, it was really good. I need to figure it out. I need to figure out
Is it a
what
foreign
movie
film?
that was.
Well, I think it's Korean.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
sorry, I didn't miss that part.
Yeah,
That sounds like an
subtitles the whole
interesting
time.
premise.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 So tell us, I don't know your love story. So this is the thing I'm fascinated by. Okay. Well, people, surprises, love. Okay. I'm also fascinated by the moment that people meet and then like, you don't realize that person is literally going to change the rest of your life. So I'm always curious as to how people meet in that moment. So I guess my first question would be like, how did you guys meet? What's so funny?
We have a discrepancy here.
I was making sure she lets me tell the story.
Okay.
Okay, so we both worked at a restaurant. It doesn't matter what restaurant, but we both worked at one. We were very young, And the first time I talked to her, she did not even look up. So
I was very shy.
I technically met her before she met me. She didn't even look at me, and I was like, okay, I guess.
I don't remember it happening.
She doesn't remember it happening, but I very, very distinctly remember saying hello to her, and she was like, and she wouldn't even look up. So I knew it was
You still
destiny.
sound a little hurt about it, actually.
It all worked out.
No, honestly, I didn't think much of it. And then, we worked together, and then we became friends, and then we started dating, and we've been.
Around what age was that?
Well, it's a little scandalous. I was 17.
Ooh.
And Ruckus was not.
I was 23 at the time.
22. You were 22.
Oh, that's excellent.
Okay.
That's
We're-
much better.
So I just yeah. I mean, you guys, if you guys want to do the math, we've been together 25 years. We've been married for 20. So yeah,
Wow.
it's been a long-term partnership.
Life partners.
I don't know why that makes me want to cry.
Everything makes you want to cry, Jan. That's a special one. That makes sense this time. That's beautiful. So I'm very curious about how the collaboration, like how did the collaboration part mix with the romance part? Like which came first?
Well, we started working together first. Ruckus ended up working in the same part of the restaurant as me, and we worked really well together, and that's kind of where we started our relationship, was just in that day-to-day working together. And I always wanted, when we started a relationship, I was like, oh, we should figure out a way to do this all the time. He maybe didn't feel the same way, but I did.
That would have been very prescient of you to be thinking that at age 17.
I mean, I was maybe 18 by the time.
But it was we didn't start collaborating creatively until after we got married.
Yeah.
And I'll just say none of it was planned. It wasn't that we just started dating because we both loved movies or we both loved poetry or whatever. It was just, I mean, we were young kids.
Yeah.
But once we got married, we just started naturally. Both of us separately always did creative things in general. And I wrote a song once, and then just out of nowhere, I was like, oh, we should shoot a music video for it, just for no reason. And we liked that idea, and that started us getting excited about visuals and visual storytelling. And then that became short films and became, we did commercials and things for work. But that started our interest. And we always loved movies, but never thought about that we could make movies or we could write movies. It was not a career choice. It was just, but I'm just saying all this was really accidental.
It was not very well planned.
I would say that's why it's taken a lot longer probably than anyone who if we had a lot more focus earlier on, perhaps we could have be farther along than we are at this age. But
yeah.
So, but that
I'd
it
say
really
you
was
guys
just
are doing pretty great.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
But
there's no doubt.
yeah, no, there were years in there of meandering and side
the wrong
trips
way
of doing weird things.
Yeah, we made some strange choices along the way, but
Yeah, that weren't towards a career of filmmaking. But I guess it's a very long answer to say. It was just accidental. It wasn't, and nothing was planned about it.
Yeah, but what I don't know, what I think is so cool about that when I hear that is you say it's accidental, but I think love and relationships are a choice. Even in the small incremental choices, you still choose to either go through the fire together in those weird transitions that you were talking about, or being like, hey, okay, this worked. Let's try something else, and let's try something else until it becomes a cohesive unit, Mm-hmm. And so I guess also just in terms of in line with that collaboration question, when was the moment that you knew that the collaboration was working? Wow, this is really great, and I want to do this with this person.
Is it working?
I love it.
yeah, I think it really started to come together when we made our first short film together.
2003?
About 2003, yeah. I had a random idea, I had a stomach bug, and while I was suffering from my stomach bug, I had this idea for a story, and I told it to him, and then I passed out for a day, and I woke up, and he was like, I wrote 10 pages. And so then I rewrote, and he rewrote, and then we just made a short film together.
Yeah, that was probably the first time we were like, we're doing this thing together.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, it's just so silly, in hindsight, but it was our first short film ever, and we were like, okay, we're win an Oscar for this, and then we're going to be making a feature within 9 months, and then blah,
Yeah, we
blah,
had
blah,
a plan
blah.
at that point.
And then reality sets in. But I think that was the first time we both sort of set our eyes on filmmaking as a goal.
Yeah.
And we've completed a short film that played festivals, and that was like, oh, okay, this is something we can do because we just did it. We proved ourselves we could do it on a small scale.
Yeah, it was a really satisfying process.
So it's like 2003, so 20 years ago, right?
Yeah. Jeez.
So what it sounds like to me, because even, you were talking about kind of your career trajectory and, progress, or maybe it took longer or whatever, but it also sounds like, I think one of the things that makes relationships fall apart is like, if the growth isn't at the same speed, right? And so it sounds like you guys have kind of grown together incrementally together. But what I'm curious about is it almost sounds like you both lean a little bit creative, where it's like there's a very ping pong effect where it's like, I've exhausted my creative energy on this. Will you now pick up and run with it? And then is that the case, or is one of you more industrious and the other one's more creative? What's kind of the pathway there?
I'd say we're definitely both creative, and we do build on each other's ideas like that.
I think one of the strengths that we have as a team is that we're both really good sounding boards for, I mean, every idea you come up with is amazing, right? Until someone else tells you it's not a great idea. So
Right.
we both are always like shitting out great ideas, but it's like the other one going, yeah, that's not the one, but that one, it's that kind of a thing.
Yeah. It is a really good funnel to like hone down which idea is the one worth pursuing.
Right. And we, like I say this all the time, we could both separately write a screenplay or go make a movie on our own, but what comes out of the two of us as a team is greater than the sum of its parts, and far better than either one of us could do on our own. And
Sure.
I think that's what I love about this particular collaboration between us.
Yeah, we definitely have different strengths and weaknesses and bring different things to the table.
And we do not agree on
A lot of things.
a lot of things we don't agree on, but otherwise, like, one of us would be redundant, right? Like, if we just agreed on everything, what would be the point of that collaboration?
But we do, for the sake of our relationship, always try to focus our arguments on how to make the story better. So it's not a personal attack. It's not, we never get personal with it. It's always fighting for the project. And so we know that, feelings can get hurt, and we talk about that. But in general, it's always fighting for the project.
Yeah, so there's several things there, since we're talking about couples. When you've been in a relationship as long as we have, and you're committed to each other, there's an underlying essence there of like, it really doesn't matter what I say to her nor how angry I make her. I know she's going to be there tomorrow, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as like a positive thing. Like
I'm a safe space, right?
It's a safe space, and then if we do get in a fight, which happens all the time, we're not some kind of special couple that doesn't argue or doesn't have relationship issues just like everyone else. But it's the extra challenge of, you have to work on your personal relationship, and then we have to work together, and we have to creatively output things together. And we don't take time off. We're never not working, really, because it all just is like,
I mean, that is what we love to do.
it's what we love to do. It's what we do, for fun. So it's a challenge, but we love it. I mean, you meet people that say, like, I can never work with my husband, or I can never work with my wife. And that's cool for you guys too. But like, I want to work with her every day, and that's, so we just feel fortunate that we've been able to hit it go. But it's, we've been doing it for 20 years, 10 years professionally. And, I'm still trying to figure out how we work together. We're constantly, it's not a joke.
It's constantly evolving.
We
though,
literally every day we work on it. We talk about it. We're like, okay, the way I'm giving you feedback is pissing you off, right? So let's talk about that so I can change that. Or we have to work on that, like everything, like when we're working in the room together,
Right.
just as much as you work on a relationship, like a romantic relationship.
But it's more important that our relationship works because our careers rely on it working well. So we have to put even more effort in.
We got to keep our cats in tuna.
Can I ask you a relatively nuanced question in the sense of like,
Sure.
so you just described like you have two compartments, like you have your working relationship and then you have your personal relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And what's strange to me when I think about that across the span of years, and you're saying you've done that professionally now for 10 years, is that we'll say most 9 to 5 couples, whether both are working or not, or like, a guy goes to work and whatever, it's like he's going to spend 2 hours in the morning with that person and then like 2 hours at night before they go to bed or something. So it's like 4 hours a day for that
Right.
marriage, right? But then for you guys, it's going to be, well, in the film industry, so it's like 12, 14-hour days anyway, right? But it's like, do you think that the reciprocal of that, because now you guys are spending, 10 times the amount of hours together in a year than most couples that have, they're not working remotely or whatever. Do you think that that pathway feeds back into your personal relationship if we keep them separated, and say, does your professional relationship also serve as an asset to your personal, or is it only the one way that it flows where your personal has to then portray into your work?
It's a complicated question for us because we don't really have experience of the other way. Like, we've never had, I mean, there have been times where we've had day jobs and we've both left and come back in the evening, but for the majority of our relationship, it's been this way. So, like,
Yeah.
that idea of a relationship that's only 4 hours a day is completely foreign to us. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no,
I
go
wish I had a
ahead.
good answer, but I don't have a good answer for that.
I'm just curious, but I guess, yeah, if you've built it that way, then it's like you can't speak into the other half of it, and that's beautiful.
Right.
That's really cool.
Well,
Well,
I'm curious about the dynamic.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm curious about the dynamic because you said, you mentioned that you each have kind of strengths and weaknesses, and there are not that many pairs of people that co-direct or co-write, right? Co-write and co-direct. So obviously the ones people think about are the Coen brothers, the Russos, the Wachowskis,
Mm.
but none of those are like romantic couples as well. So I'm curious how the dynamic of co-directing works for you on set. Like, is one of you more geared towards the cinematography and one is more geared towards working with talent, things like that?
I just go take a nap and she does all the work. Is that how it works?
I love that. I love that for you. Love that for you.
Just like everything else, we're still constantly discovering and finessing how we do it. But we have one rule, which is if we're any given camera setup, that we don't move on until we're both happy. That's our like golden rule. Other than that, it's like it's that, and then almost just as equally is like do not confuse the actors. Meaning, I'm not going to walk up and say something she doesn't know I just said, and then she's going to walk up and say something. We're trying to be
opposite or
very
whatever.
aware of that. Like for On the Devil to Pay, for example, sometimes I would talk to the actor and sometimes she would, depending on who the actor was, what the scene was at the time. We tend to kind of understand that one of us has an angle on something that might need to be adjusted because we're talking about it before we do it. I would never just jump up and go say something to someone without letting her know why
Right.
I'm doing it, what's being said, and why. And because it's always like after take, are we moving on? No, what you're not happy with, let's figure out. Okay, is that a technical thing or is that an acting thing? And then I'll do it or you'll do it. It's just everything is just communication. It's
Yeah,
just
I
talking to
mean,
each other.
we talk about us being like a two-headed snake because we've written the script together, right? We conceived it and we wrote it together. We did all the prep together, and then by the time we're on set, we're like of the same mind on almost all things. So it's just a matter of we executed the thing that we both know that we're trying to execute.
Yeah, there's generally very little that we are not on the same page about by the time we get there if we've done our prep. And
Because you made the pages, right?
yeah, we did the pages
Yeah.
together, and that's a lot of talking it out, and then talking to actors. We're in the room talking in the rehearsals and all that. So yeah, by the time we're like really got a camera up and we're rolling, there's not a lot of.
It's just about how to get to
Yeah.
our vision.
It's just like what is the adjustment needs to be made, and who feels like they can maybe have an angle on how to make that happen efficiently in the moment.
Yeah, I have I have two questions. The first one is just to kind of give people some background. Can you walk us a little bit through your story about like you started off as screenwriters and then you made the jump to directing. So talking to us a little bit about Becky and some of the other films that you guys wrote, and then transitioning to directing for The Devil to Pay.
Sure. Well, I'll say we became filmmakers very much on purpose. We became professional screenwriters by accident. In that was, our first, like I said, we wanted to shoot that music video and then short films. And that was like, writing wasn't wasn't even a consideration. It was like, we want to make films. To us, that meant directing. That meant being on set with a camera. And at that time we were like, well, we don't have scripts. I don't know screenwriters. I guess we're going to have to write. And so we started writing just to have things to shoot. That was literally why we started writing. We at some point wrote probably 7 scripts that were terrible, that weren't worth reading. Feature lengths.
Yeah.
We ended up writing one called Rattle the Cage, which was for us to direct. That was the idea. It's a contained thriller. It was incredibly Southern, like super Southern. If anyone's not familiar with us, that's like everything we do of our original stories are Southern in nature.
Based on that culture.
In that culture. So this was like the most Southern thing you've ever read, and through a weird set of circumstances, we sold the script to Image Nation are they in Abu Dhabi?
No, yeah, Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
in the UAE.
In the UAE, and it got made in the Arabic language and became the first genre film ever shot in the UAE, which was pretty cool. And it premiered at Fantastic Fest. And so the fact that movie got made got attention to the screenplay, which started getting passed around as a sample, of writing sample. It was, people would read our version, not the Arabic version. And then people just that's how we got started as professional screenwriters. That script got passed around.
We got repped off that script.
Yeah, we got repped off that script, and then we started getting writing gigs off that script. I mean, this script still gets sent out as a sample, and we wrote it in...
It's like 10 years old.
Yeah. But, that's the thing, is like, if it's good, I haven't read it in so long, but I'll still send it to someone if it feels right as an example for a certain thing.
Yeah, but we had a deal to direct that film in English with the same company that made it in Arabic, and then circumstances happened, and that deal ended up not happening. And we waited so long to make a film because we knew that one was going to happen, that we were really frustrated that we hadn't directed a film yet.
A feature,
and that's where The Devil to Pay came in.
We had that deal in place to direct our version of Rattle the Cage, and we were set. We had a certain time window. It was the fall of whatever year we shot it, and we got a confirmation that it wasn't happening. I'll just say it that way.
That year, that it was not going to happen in the fall.
Insanely frustrating, and just like a low point for us. And we literally, did you cuss on this? I think I've already cussed.
I mean, you're free.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You're free.
I do accidentally.
It was very frustrating because
very frustrating.
It was a couple of year process of kept trying, we're going to make this. And finally, after this, whatever time, they said, no, we're not making it. It's like, fuck this, we're making a movie. And we had
by the end of the year, like we set that goal.
Yeah, well, look, we were already blocking off this time period to make this movie, right? Okay, let's make a different one. And we had a mentor at the time that told us how they got their first film made. And he said, all I had was my script. I set a start date and told everyone that's when we're shooting, and then willed it into existence. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, that sounds good.
Yeah, so that's what we did.
So we literally did that. We picked a start date and told everyone, this is a moving train. Here's our start date. Do you want to get on board? Do you want to help? And I mean, down to like, we got the money a week before we started rolling cameras. Like it was like, but we were
tense. But we were committed to making it with whatever we had available. So,
right.
Even if it was a scaled down version that we had to do, we were going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of a little dance film called She Sets the City on Fire. Look, I'm doing
a good title. That's a good title. I like that title.
Sorry, no, I was joking. Chris and I made this dance film by this artist named Gavin DeGrani. He had this song called She Sets the City on Fire. And that's literally, I was like, this is the date, this is what we're doing, and we just scrapped all our resources together. But I made it sound more fancy than it was. Thank you for honoring me, Ruckus. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that's how we got that feature made. But in the meantime, we had been writing professionally as screenwriters. And Becky, specifically, since you asked about that, was a rewrite gig
that we actually got after we shot The Devil to Pay. The directors who were making Becky had another project they wanted us to work on, and it was taking a while to get going. And when they were finally ready, we were shooting The Devil to Pay, and we're like, hey, you're going to have to wait like 3 weeks because we're in production. And they were like, oh, we can't wait. We're like, okay, I guess we lost a job. And then they came back to us a month later, and they were like, well, what about this script?
Was it different? Yeah, once we were available again. Yeah. So there's a writer named Nick Morris. He's a guy in Canada. He wrote the script, Becky. It got purchased. The producers hired these directors, and then the directors wanted to rewrite, and so they reached out to us. And that's how we ended up doing that gig.
Yeah.
Do you think that it helps? Like, did your writing career help you in terms of? Because I know we have a lot of writer directors that listen to the show, or that are a part of our school. Did you find that writing helped you get more attention or get the funding that you needed to actually direct your films? Or, yeah, what was that?
I don't think attention, but I think it made us better writers by watching other people shoot things that we wrote. That was hugely helpful.
It definitely gave us more confidence as writers too, seeing something produced that you wrote and seeing how it came out on screen. You're like, oh no, I did do a good job on that. Like it is what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I remember going to Fantastic Fest for the premiere, and this movie had been translated into Arabic, and some decent sized things had to change for cultural reasons. And I remember still like, I just laughed out loud at my own joke.
Yeah, we sat there
And
at the
it's-
subtitles laughing at
and
our own jokes.
I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool. And I guess we're okay at this,
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I kind
It's
of
gotta
lost
be a very
thread of
exciting feeling.
what the question was.
No, that's great. I mean, I was actually just going to ask about what the difference is between the dynamic of writing together and directing together, because they're very different disciplines. Not everybody that writes directs. Not everybody that directs writes, right?
Right.
Because not everybody feels comfortable doing both things. Is it a situation where, because I think you mentioned earlier, Elaine, that it's like Ruckus took your idea, like the seed of your idea, and wrote 10 pages, and then you rewrote, and then he rewrote. Is it a back and forth process, and then you come together? Are there like writing sessions where you both are brainstorming at the same time?
Yeah, we have a very specific process that we've figured out over the years, and it's constantly evolving. But right now, what we do, I'm looking over
You
this
can't
way
see
because
the-
that's where our boards are.
The wall over there is full of our new thing we're writing.
We kind of agree on a concept, and we'll just do that in the room, like kind of deciding, we'll kind of brainstorm ideas and pitch them off of each other until we settle on an idea, and then we'll break that story. We'll do that in a couple of different ways. Sometimes we'll start with just a log line sentence that's just kind of like a mission statement for what we think the film will be, and it gets very technical and not sexy. It's like, the antagonist, the protagonist, the setting, and all that. And then we break it down into acts and do cards for each act, and then we break it down into a treatment, and then
I would just say that first part is very much what he's asking is the in the room. Like,
yeah.
it's very much in the room every day. It's like a writer's room of two. And it's classic note cards on the wall, which is what every screenwriter does.
Yeah.
And that's in the room every single day. And then we'll once it's got as far as we can with the note cards, then we'll write like a really detailed treatment. And from that point forward, we're literally on other sides of the house in our different offices. Like, we definitely do not. I sit over her shoulder while she types. Like, there's no way in hell we could
We would kill
do
each
that.
other.
Yeah. So it's the talking things out in the room. We definitely do together. But once any kind of words are being typed, we're literally in separate offices, doors closed, and we text if we want the other person's attention. And we say, can I come in? I want to discuss something. She'll say, give me 5 minutes. I'm finishing the scene. Like we have, that's another rule. It's like one of the rules we just had to come to is like, it doesn't work when I just bust in the room and start asking you a question when you're in the middle of a scene. So we have these rules that we've agreed to ahead of time, and it just makes things smoother.
We set a lot of boundaries and respect each other's creative space.
Yeah. So then we write our treatment, and then when we write the actual draft, we work in Sync, which is like Dropbox. We break the entire script into every scene, separate them out, name them something. And that way, at any point, I can jump on any scene and write it, and she can jump on any scene and write it. And we just rewrite each other when the other one's working on a different scene. And it took us a long time to come to that. It used to be the very early script, I would write an entire draft, and then she would write an entire rewrite of that. And once we realized we could just be doing this thing, not only is it way faster than what we used to do, but our first like assembly of that feels like a third, fourth draft, because every scene's been rewritten 12 times before we agreed on it. And then once it's put together, so our first drafts feel pretty solid.
It keeps us a lot more nimble too, because it's a lot easier to change a scene than an entire draft of a film. So if we see something's not working, we can stop and talk about it and rearrange without getting as emotionally attached to an entire draft that you've written yourself.
Yeah, once you finish that first draft, you know that it's the best thing that was
You're
ever
like,
written.
just fix some commas and we're good to go.
What do you mean? It's not the best script you ever. Every time we send it to someone to read, it's like, we just want you to tell us it's the best thing you've ever read.
That's not true. That's not true.
That's what every writer secretly wants.
We love good
Exactly.
books.
So I'm real curious about extrapolating more on that process, because it actually surprises me a little bit. So if we kind of correlate it to The Devil to Pay, because this movie kind of and all of our listeners have to watch it. Like I'm so blown away by this film. I'm going to try to be so delicate to make sure that I don't hit any spoilers or anything, because you guys wrote this so perfectly, and I want to talk more in the after party about some of the rules that you broke and how you approach it. But so almost like I'm blown away that this is your writing process, because I almost imagine it was more of like a role play type thing. So I meant like with dialogue or something like that. But it sounds like you guys are kind of analyzing it separately and analyzing what you've defined the characters, because the characters are so compelling and so strong in the way that you approached it. And so when I think about some of the dialogue that was rolled out and how it was so saturated in the character, right? And so I know, like, it makes me think of, like, for example, like with traditional animation, you almost like assign a character to a certain animator because they're going to make it move the way that they know that character to move, right?
Yeah.
And so with your writing process, do you both know, like, okay, Lemon is kind of my baby, and like I'm going to let you navigate the way she would talk? Or is it not like that? You both know Lemon so well that you're infusing kind of what you both know her to be?
We definitely know it's very, like, if I'm writing a scene, whatever character's in that scene, I'm going to do my 100% what I think they are. And she is too. But I mean, we've talked it out so much, and our treatments are probably 15 to 20 pages long, and those are all, it's not just, and then this happens, and then this happens. It's literally like through the character arc and why they're at this point in this, and because that's what drives plot to us is the character arc and where they're headed.
That they're making.
But we also very much do, like, say we have a first draft. Okay, we're going to do a Lemon pass where we do nothing but look at her dialogue and her scenes and make sure she feels cohesive and authentic. We do that for every single character.
Yeah.
So that becomes that voice. But I mean, I guess it's just being able to be a little schizophrenic and jump to each character at the
And
time.
that's still done separately if you do a Lemon pass? It's like we're going to go both make our own notes and then come back together and review it?
I mean, we do a lot
We'll
like,
talk about it, but...
And sometimes there will be characters that, like, especially with the female characters, sometimes Ruckus will say something in the dialogue, and I'll be like, yeah, girls don't.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Girls would never say that.
Don't talk about farts that much. They just don't. Like,
I was like,
Yeah.
they don't?
like, maybe a little, but not this much.
Well, I think that's an advantage too. Well, very often, especially like, is, she'll be like, this is we wrote a script that was a coming of age of a 14-year-old girl. Well, I don't know what the hell that's about, but I know what's an interesting character for me to watch.
Right.
And then she helps me know that that's authentic for that character, that age.
And he'll do the same, like, if it's a character, he's like, no, I'm basing this on my uncle that, like, is exactly this way. I have his voice in my head. I know what he talks like. Then, I'll learn that voice and we'll use that voice for that character. But we draw from experience and people that we know for a lot of the like, dialogue and characterizations.
Yeah, it was so evident in The Devil to Pay, especially the way that Lemon would, like, talk to her son and whatnot. And then she is throughout the whole story so feminine, but you watch her grow. And the way you guys wrote it was so, like, for the masculine side of me that, like, liked John Wick, that part of me was, like, still so satisfied because, that was, like, her growth, but in such an executed way. And I felt both of your presence in it. You know what I mean? It was so, I was just flabbergasted watching it because all the characters were just, like, so intriguing and surprising, and I didn't see any of them coming. It was just really well done.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
And not to, listen, sorry. This is the thing, guys. Maybe you could help me. I'm really bad with transitions. I'm trying to get better. You know what I mean? Not to be so, like, awkward. This is a transition. This is transition number 3.
To a different subject matter, you mean?
Yeah.
Segue. Yeah. So I'm really excited for us to delve deeper into The Devil to Pay, which, by the way, Lemon was played by Danielle Deadweiler, right? Who's phenomenal in the film. I can't wait to talk to you guys just in the casting and the directing side as well as the writing side for the film. And I guess before we do that, though, I want to ask one last question for our general audience that's listening before we jump into the after party for people that are part of the after party. Can you just, there are a lot of people that are interested in being they've either been doing it solo for a while, or they just have dreams of, they're inspired by another person, right? So can you give people, I know you guys said there are general rules that you guys live by in terms of working together as a team, but can you give people that are trying to come together to collaborate as writers or writer directors, or just in any type of collaboration, just some tips to go by that you guys have found successful to make a great team?
For working together,
like creative
in a
collaboration.
creative collaboration.
Yeah. Well, for one, respect each other in general. Like we said before, always argue for the project, not for against the person, right?
Yeah, we agreed going in like the best idea wins. I don't. No, well, both our names are on it, right? I don't give a shit who came up with the joke or the gag or whatever. The best idea wins.
Yeah, and by the end, we can't remember who came up with. We argue about no, that was my idea. But it was our idea.
Yeah, I think I'll say it's like it is totally cool if you want to start, if you're trying to work with someone you've never worked with before, is lay down a bunch of ground rules before going in. And you can hedge it like, hey, not all of my collaborations in the past have been successful. Maybe some of them were my fault. Maybe some of them were the other people's fault. But I want this one to be successful. So if you don't mind, I'd like to lay down some ground rules that we agree with ahead of time so that if one of these things come up, we've already talked about how we're going to handle it. Right.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be different for everyone, obviously. But I think saying that and doing that and having that talk from the beginning is going to save a lot of heartache, I think.
Yeah, and doing some initial like inner work with yourself, like what do I need from a collaboration as far as like notes go? Like what upsets me, what keeps me in it? Like am I a person who needs verbal notes, or am I a person who likes to read it first and then talk about it? That kind of stuff ahead of time can really help smooth out those relationships.
Right. It's just a lot of communication up front and constant communication during it. I mean, we literally, well, I mean, this is like we've been doing this for 20 years, and she'll say, the way you just said that to me felt disrespectful to me. I know you didn't mean it that way, but it did to me. So let's talk about that. And then oh, wow, okay, I didn't realize that I even said it that way. Here's what I meant, and I'll try next time not to say it that way, and I'll try to think of a better way, more constructive way to say that. I mean, it's literally the same stuff you use in a romantic relationship, but I feel like
Communication is
so I feel
important.
like you just got to do that in your work relationships too.
And I would be quick to apologize also.
Yeah.
Whether or not you were wrong.
And
Still
we're
apologize.
very quick. A big part of it is like, I have to be in a different room right now. Like if someone gets frustrated or irritated, know that it's better for us to separate and cool down and not get as much work done that day than to try to force it. And we just get even, and it just will get more work done in the long run if we maintain a relationship and keep that healthy than trying to push through being mad and every once in a while we're under a deadline and we have to work when we're pissed. And sometimes
or if we're on set, like that's one of the things that's different about being screenwriters versus directors is when you're at home and you're not on a deadline, you can take time out and calm down and figure things out. But when you're on set, you kind of have to sometimes put up with behavior that you wouldn't normally put up with, or figure out a way to push forward and make your day and then talk about it later.
The reality of indie film is as a team is that if I'm off in the woods crying because I think the whole movie's falling apart, she can be strong for me, and vice versa.
One of the benefits of having a partner.
We picked different days on Devil to Pay to go fall apart.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't going together.
Indie film.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It seems like honesty, communication, being strong for the people in your team. Like I know that Chris and Hayram feel that I am all of those things. You know what I mean? I'm strong. I'm honest. So that's why we're a great team.
Right.
No.
Hayram and I fall apart all the time while Jan just takes the lead.
Yeah,
I can see
That's
that.
true.
I'll hold it together.
We're each other's shoulder to cry on while Jan runs
Right.
everything
Two
for
of us
us.
are curled up in the fetal position in the shower crying,
Yeah.
and Jan is just running the ship.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a good 5-minute cry,
Facts.
and then you're
Yeah.
back at it.
Exactly.
Well, instead of me transitioning, Hayram, would you like to transition us out?
Oh gosh. Well, that's it for the podcast. Thank you so much for both of you being on. And we're going to head into the after party where we're going to talk shop. We're going to talk details. We're hopefully get into scheduling and how you guys ran this amazing thing and not only ran it and built it, but also got it onto Netflix, because that's a tremendous thing to get your product delivered and sold. And so thank you so much for sharing your story with us on the podcast. And for all of you that want to hear the after party, head over to theheartbeatfilmclub.com and you can spend more time with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And also
Bye.
go watch The Devil to Pay on Netflix.
Watch it.
Yes, please.
Get up in there.
I want Daddy to take me in.
I know you do.
Morning, Lemon.
Can't this wait till Tully get home?
How long you been gone?
Dreams can be dangerous.
Tully?
Can blind a man to his duties.
I suppose you're wondering why I summoned you.
The debt is paid.
I gave him a chance to make it right.
Find your husband, return what's mine, or I'll murder your boy. And I'll bury you alive right next to him.
The father of my child lying in a ditch somewhere halfway down the mountain.
Takes a while to dig a grave.
They got my boy. I need your help, Percy.
It's war. What are you really doing here?
Ain't none gonna keep you away from us. Ever.
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I am so humbled to be going into the after party with them and discussing their craft further, because we've just scratched the surface of like literally how much they know, and like even just hearing the way they work together as a couple and the way we respect each other. Like I'm honestly like, I can't wait to learn and study under them. And like, I'm blown away by this film, and I feel like everyone needs to watch it.
Yeah, their dynamic is so unique and interesting. And to be working together as a romantic couple and collaborators at that level is super unique. And the film just showcases how talented they are and how well they work together. And so I'm very excited to learn more about how it actually goes down, because it's an incredible accomplishment, an amazing film.
One of the things that I really love that they talked about in general is just working in teams with people, which is kind of what we do, or what we do as podcast hosts, and what we do as filmmakers. So I don't know, that was a really exciting part to me, just talking about the minutia of how to make great relationships and stuff work. So it was cool.
And they've been together such a long time. It's so romantic. I'm excited about what that means for other folks who are feeling like, this Valentine's Day might be the time to really dig into their relationships and see what other kind of collaborations can come out of that bonding. That's awesome.
Yeah.
For both of them.
It seems so like selfish of me and like user selfish, but like I'm going to rewatch The Devil to Pay, but then I can't wait for whatever they make next. I feel like we need to find some funding for them immediately.
Yeah.
And just be like, double down, because we know it's going to be great. Please, please, as fast as possible.
Yeah, this film was clearly an amazing calling card for them, both as writers and directors. If this is what they can do on, what they said is a pretty low budget, you can only imagine what it would look like once they upgrade and are able to really get more of those resources that would kind of allow them to elaborate their vision for something on a larger scale. That's super exciting to be able to wait for and see when it comes time.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm excited about I'm excited about this podcast.
Wait!
What?
Don't end the podcast. Don't. We didn't find out what your favorite romance film was.
Oh yeah, what is your favorite romance?
Yeah, because I took up too much time. This is my fault.
You
So
did.
now
You
we
did
need to
eat up a lot of
definitely
time.
get back to that. Yeah, I apologize. I thought I was telling good stories, and I was like, oh, we're out of time.
They were good stories, but there were a lot of them.
No. No, I would say The Notebook is up there, but I will say the film that I've watched over and over and over again for the past 20 years, since actually their 20th anniversary, is A Walk to Remember. Now, I watched A Walk to Remember. I'm about to cry. I don't want to. But
Chris is about to cry. He doesn't want to.
I know.
I used to go to Borders. I used to work at Borders. And that's where that's where I used to play Gavin's song. I used to hijack the stereo people, not hijack the people, but like the system, and then and then play Gavin's album so people would know more about him. But I used to go into Borders, well, Barnes and Noble actually. I used to go there, and there was this book that was Let God Write Your Love Story, and I used to go and like flip through the chapters and kind of like read it in the store. But then I walked past A Walk to Remember that was actually a novel by Nicholas Sparks. And I remember I read that book. I read it a couple of times, then I watched the movie. And I just remember thinking I wanted a love story that was as profound as that was. A love story that there was a miracle waiting inside of it because of the love of these two people. And one of the greatest, so I've kind of held on to that promise in that book, and just this idea that love transcends everything and that love can change things and stuff like that. So that's it. You guys seem like you're just like, but that's
No, I'm with you, because I haven't, it's been a minute since I've actually watched that. What was the miracle that was
so in the book,
blossoming out of this?
Yeah, in the book there was Jamie and Landon. Landon was like the popular bad boy, with a heart of gold kind of, but it was like covered. And she was just kind of like this nerdy, shy girl that people had. Why are you smiling, Hayram?
Because for a moment I went back to
what?
No, you're good. Okay. I don't know. So many times I've mentioned like how there's like always two guys, and anyway, but continue.
So people had these preconceived notions about her, and basically he did something bad, got in trouble, had to volunteer and do the school play, and that's where he met her. And basically they developed this friendship, and he asked her to help him with the school play, and she said, I'll do that just as long as you don't fall in love with me. Well, of course, that's ludicrous to him because is not even in his stratosphere to him. But they developed this friendship, and they touched each other's hearts, and she started to influence the way that he saw himself. And he started to influence her growth in the way that she saw herself. And so the movie, what I loved about it wasn't about the surface, about what people look like or the surface things that they said. It was about these two people that developed a heart connection that otherwise wouldn't even be friends, but developed love through that. And so the miracle became, she had all these things on her list of things she wanted to accomplish. And you find out in the movie that she has cancer and she's going to die after they've fallen in love. And one of them was like be in two places at once. One of them was get a tattoo, and so she got this little fake tattoo, and then she was straddling the state line, so that was be in two places at once. And then one of them was she wanted to be married in her mother's church. And so in the book, the character Landon couldn't figure out what to do with her. He knew he loved her, but he felt like there was more, and he kept praying and asking God, like, what is there? And so in the book, they're sitting and they're reading Bible verses. They're reading 1 Corinthians 13. And then he realizes that he wants to marry her, right? And that's kind of the thing. They get married. Landon ends up going to medical school because like she believed in him. And then she ends up dying. And then in the movie, he goes to visit her father 4 years later. He's gotten into medical school, And then he gives the father back the book that she had full of quotes and all this stuff. And then he says to the dad, I'm sorry she never got her miracle. And then he looks at Landon and he says, she did. You were the miracle. And in the book, she said something like praying for him or something. And then when she was dying, he said he fell in love with her, or he fell in love and she was just like, what do you think I was praying for? And so the idea that prayer changes things and moves mountains and creates the impossible. So he became the miracle that she was praying for. That's a long-winded answer of saying, I believe in the power of prayer, and I believe that people are destined to be together if they choose to be. If they choose to intentionally walk the path that leads them to one another, I think there's something really beautiful in that. So
I'm excited that you have such a deep love of that film. Obviously not my first choice, but it's all good. It's very Jan, which I love.
All right. That is absolutely my favorite movie. A Walk to Remember. I love it. It has been such a pleasure hanging out with you guys, talking to Lane and Ruckus, and I hope that you guys have a really great Valentine's Day.
Yes, and don't forget to join us with more from Lane and Ruckus on the after party.
Yeah, you can go to heartbeatfilmclub.com or follow us on any social platforms, and also our podcast is on YouTube now. So so Spotify, YouTube, that's where you're going to see our video podcast, and just search Heartbeat Film Club podcast. No, that's wrong. Just search Heartbeat Film Podcast. Yep.
Yes.
All right. You guys have a great holiday. All right. Bye.
All right. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.